in Seattle on the very first weekend of Cycle for Survival. It's back in January, so I get to be a part of the bookends and be here today to hear those final fundraising totals and hype you guys up. We're halfway through this ride. You guys ready to finish strong? Right, let's do it. So hopefully I can provide a little bit of motivation and inspiration. There's a ton of it in this room, and I'm going to contribute my little part. My rare cancer story started almost 10 years ago. When I was 22 years old, I was a collegiate student athlete on the track team at the University of Minnesota when I was diagnosed with a rare salivary gland cancer called adenoid cystic carcinoma. It's a rare cancer that currently there's about 1,200 new diagnoses every year in the U.S. There's about 10,000 people living with this disease. And this is an incurable cancer for which there are no FDA-approved treatments. So when I was diagnosed with cancer, it was definitely scary. It was the most uncertainty that I had faced in my life, but I guess as a 22-year-old, I thought, you know what? This is a small bump on the road, and I can get through it. And one of the things that helped me the most to get through that diagnosis was running. And I can thank cancer for giving me a renewed sense of purpose and finding the passion to really get the most out of myself. It was the first time in my life where I fully realized that both time and opportunities are finite, and it really made a big difference in how I approached my life and my training. Less than a year after completing my treatment, which included surgery and radiation, I took almost 10 seconds off my personal best in the 1,500 meters. And I almost won the NCAA title in the 1,500, almost got second. And I had never been to nationals. So you could say that I experienced a little bit of what I would call like a cancer survivor's Cinderella story. So that was just the beginning of my running journey. In those years after my diagnosis, I signed a professional contract. I tried out for 2 Olympics. I came close in 2012 and also competed in 2016. But in the years in between, I did win 1 national title. Not so bad for a 2-time cancer survivor. But you know, it was tough. Even though I had the running in my life, that kind of kept me on track, and honestly, it was a little bit of a distraction from the uncertainty in my health. Adenoid cystic carcinoma is a cancer that often comes back 5 or 10 or 15 years later. So you really don't know how much time you're going to get after your diagnosis before you're going to need another treatment. So I thought my coping strategy was to tell myself, well, maybe, just maybe, I am fast enough and I can outrun cancer. It's not going to come back. Unfortunately, nobody is fast enough to outrun cancer, and certainly I was no exception. Less than a month after competing in the 2016 U.S. Olympic trials, I found out about a large metastatic recurrence in my liver. And that is when I decided to make the journey from Minneapolis to New York City to meet my doctor and my personal hero, who is not only just like a cool guy, but also is really working hard on my cancer, Dr. Alan Ho. And he has done 6 clinical trials on my disease specifically at Memorial Sloan Kettering since I was diagnosed, basically. And some of those trials are funded by Cycle for Survival, so thank you. In the 2.5 years since my recurrence, I have had half my liver removed, and my tumors unfortunately grew back after that. So then I tried chemotherapy, and I raced at the U.S. Championships on chemotherapy. I did not win anything, but it's important for me to raise some awareness for these cancers, so that was something I wanted to do. And then after that, I did fail chemotherapy. I tried an immunotherapy clinical trial, and my tumors continued to grow through that. After that, I did have 2 radioembolization procedures on my liver, which did help me a little bit, but you can sense a trend here. My cancer is pretty stubborn, and quite honestly, I am running out of options to treat my cancer. About 2 months ago, my disease was considered stable, which is great, and I'm still running and hoping to qualify for 1 more Olympic trials next year. But as many people in this room know, things can change fast with cancer. And last month, I found out that my tumors are unfortunately picking up their pace yet again. And like a lot of rare cancer patients, the race is truly on to my disease and modern medicine. And this is where Cycle for Survival funding makes a huge difference, because they are the ones who are doing these clinical trials on rare cancers that are truly giving options for patients like me who would not have had any more options 5 or 10 years ago. So it is making a huge difference, and as you might expect, I don't run quite as fast as I used to. to, but I do still run. And one of the things that's super important to me at this phase in my survivorship and in my life is to really use my story to hopefully inspire other people, and also just to raise awareness and raise funds. So I started my foundation last year, Brave Like Gabe, and we are so proud to ride alongside Cycle for Survival and contribute to this cause. It has been just really special to be a part of this movement, so I just want to thank everyone here for what you're doing today. But this is a huge weekend. As you know, we're gonna announce our final fundraising total, and one thing that I think is super important is to celebrate all the small victories on the way to winning this battle. But before I can get off this stage, can I get a commitment from who is going to come back next year? So thank you for letting me share my story today, and thank you most of all for joining the battle. Let's do this!